All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Uh, this is our follow-up meeting for upcoming improvements at Tryon Hills Park. My name is Bert Lynn, and I'm the Capital Planning Division Director for Park and Recreation in Mecklenburg County. Joining me tonight are James Williams, the planner for this particular project, who you'll hear from in a few minutes. Jen Brooks, who's with Mecklenburg County Asset and Facility Management and serving as the project manager on this project. And in the background, Katie Lloyd will be helping us with some of the logistics. She's a senior planner with capital planning at Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation. We are excited to continue the process of working with you and others in the neighborhood to identify improvements within the park that reflect your needs. Ultimately, we want to ensure that Tryon Hills Park is a vital and loved part of the neighborhood. During this evening's meeting, we want to discuss how this project was funded and share some of the feedback that we've received thus far. Most importantly, we want to hear from you about the proposed improvement concepts that we'll share in just a few minutes. We have a series of questions and discussion items to help narrow down the proposed improvements within the park. Before we get too far into things, I wanted to go through some features on our virtual meeting platform. We ask that everybody stay muted through the presentation. You'll notice a microphone shaped button in the bottom left of the screen. If there's a red slash through that, then you are muted. Thank you for that. If you have questions or comments throughout the presentation, please use the chat function. You'll find in the bottom middle of your screen a little chat box, and you can click that and the chat box will open up. We will have time later in the presentation to give everyone an opportunity to unmute and share thoughts or ask questions. We ask that you raise your hand if you have any questions, or you can include those in the chat box kind of throughout the meeting. So let's test the chat feature very quickly. If you would please type your name, your zip code, and your favorite outdoor activity. We got two runners right out the gates. It would, I mean, the runners would be the first ones out of the gates, right? Aileen, I agree. I'm more of a walker than a runner now. Bad knees and a bad ankle. All right, so as you guys continue to do that, I'm going to continue to move forward. So over the last 2 years, Mecklenburg County Board of Commissioners set aside $7 million as part of a broader equity initiative to use for reinvestment in park and recreation facilities. The funds that will be used to improve Tryon Hills Park are part of that overall funding. Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation recently completed our new Park and Recreation Master Plan, which we call MEC Playbook. One component of the plan, was a full inventory and assessment of all of our parks, greenways, nature preserves, recreation centers, and other department facilities. As a result of the assessment, each park and recreation facility was ranked either good, acceptable, or poor. We plan to focus future investments into parks and facilities that received a poor rating, like Tryon Hills Park. So as we move forward, I'm going to pass things over to James Williams, who's going to tell us a little bit about the project schedule.
Thanks, Bert. We started this process October 2021, and we had great input, and we were really excited about what we heard from the community. Then from that period on, we started going into some design concepts. We did a lot of site visits out to the site, started talking to operations, understanding what they had in mind and the things that they had did for the site. And so right now, we're going to present some of those concepts that we had, and hopefully we have a good engagement tonight so that we can narrow that down. And so then we'll do a final park improvement plan along with programs, and we look to get back to you in spring 2022. And this would be through public input, or we may at that point, have a public meeting, a true public meeting. And then we are going to construction, and hopefully in the spring we'll celebrate the opening, spring of 2023. And now we want to talk about what we heard at that first public meeting. The park has been a place of refuge, and I think that's always good for a park, and specifically during COVID. And there was talk about the Delahaye community, which is changing. And we all know about Enlivian and the development that they're doing. But the whole area is going through a urban sort of experience of development, more compact development. So the park space is definitely going to help those families that will be moving in, 144 unit. And then atrium development is also doing some things behind. So it's a lot going on, and we feel like we're at the right place at the right time to get some of these ideas and get this park going. It would really be nice if we can get the area residents to come together, because I think there was some negative impressions about the park because of Delahaye, because of what was going on. And like I said, now we're starting to see some changes on that. And one of the things that we heard was that the children playing, laughter, the sound of children, leisure and walking, and also watching basketball, sound like urban hoops. So that was kind of neat. And then some of the potential things to see was a dog park, walking trail. They also handball court, which was sort of interesting. We heard that. And we heard seating, of course. Seating, there's not many benches out there now. If we can do that, we definitely will. And then one of the things to remove is fencing. And also on our part, we're going to do what's right. Accessibility is very important to us, universal accessibility to all. So that's going to be one of the driving forces as we go forth. Next slide. And then Tryon Hills Park is 1.96 acres. It's an urban location, as I've said, with primary interest off 30th Street. And then there's also a pedestrian entrance off 31st Street. The park was purchased through 1978 bonds. And we have been in the park reorganizing some things, and that was done in 2019. Operations went in and they moved some things around. Next slide. Some of those things they moved around was the playground specifically, and it's back in the back and also in and around the shelter. We had some vandalism and also some homelessness and some things that were going on. So everything was pushed forward to the street in 2019. We have the playground, basketball. We also have a shelter, and those are in a walking trail, loop trail in the back towards 31st Street. And that trail is very nice and wooded. We've done some taking out of trees that were dead and cleared it out and thin, and we're still looking at trying to make the best use of that area. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Jen.
Thanks, James, and hi, everybody. I'm going to walk you through two concepts for Tryon Hills Park that we've developed after the process that we've undertaken, listening to community concerns and evaluating the evaluations that were done of the park that gave it its bad rating, and looking for ways to achieve our equity goals. So I'll say as a start that both concept A and concept B seek to achieve one of our primary equity goals, which is to make the park universally accessible. And so one of the big efforts is to make sure that people who are less comfortable, who have mobility challenges, can move through the park with comfort. Concept A works within the existing structure of the park, but enhances it to respond to some of the community feedback that we received in the fall. The basketball court and the shelter stay at the heart of the park, and the playground stays in its current location, but we elevate it so that it's up above the street level by a few feet, provide a ramp leading up to it from an inviting park entrance, so that we don't need to put a fence around it to keep the kids that are playing, to protect them from activity on the street, in the street or on the sidewalk. We also add some diagonal paths to increase circulation, so it's much easier to move from the different areas within the park, from the playground to the shelter, or from the basketball to the playground. And another really cool amenity that we've added in Concept A is a walking loop that is about 1/10 of a mile long. So you could come to Tryon Hills with your music in your headphones or with a friend and walk that loop 10 times and have a mile under your belt. Can you go to the next slide, please? This diagram just emphasizes the points that I just made and describes in a different way the elements of this concept. The dashed red line are the universally accessible paths. The dotted red line is the 1/10 of a mile walking trail. The shelter stays in its current location, and that's represented by the red square, but it's refurbished so that it gets a kind of makeover. The basketball court stays where it is, but it gets a makeover too. That's in the yellow. And then the playground is the most significant change. It stays in its current location, but we lift it up away from the street edge, and we're proposing a play lawn at the back of it so that kids can have more structured play on the play equipment or play more freely on the lawn. And Bert, you can go to the next slide and we'll share this view of Concept A from 30th Street. So what you're seeing in the foreground or the front of the image is the elevated play area. And the shelter is in clear view from the street. The basketball court's also visible from the street. And the entry experience is more inviting. There's a possibility to really enhance that entry with a plaza that has game tables. And then again, it's not pictured in this image, but that 1/10 of a mile loop is in the wooded area at the back of the site. And you can go to the next slide, Bert. Thank you. So Concept B, as I mentioned, also addresses accessibility. And so one of our priorities is to make sure that all of the paths are universally accessible. But this scheme has a bigger change. In this concept, we swap the children's playground with the basketball court. So the current basketball court that is flat becomes the children's play area at the center of the park and up a little bit higher from the sidewalk as the basketball court is now. And then the basketball court moves to the side of the park where the children's playground is now, but a little bit further back off of the street. The other change in this scheme is that the shelter moves from the center of the park a little bit closer to the street, so that the playground, the basketball court, and the shelter are all at the same level. And so the space that connects them acts almost like a plaza. So you could move more freely from one to the other. But in order to achieve those changes, we sacrifice the walking loop. So that's not shown in this scheme. Instead, we use the existing woodland as a place for smaller picnic tables so that you could come with a smaller group or a friend and have lunch, hang out in this woodland. You can go to the next slide, Bert. So again, this diagram explains that in a different way. The dashed red line shows the universally accessible paths. The new playground is at the heart of the park in the blue dashed line. The basketball court is relocated to the kind of the left of the playground. The shelter is moved down close to the basketball court and the playground. and then we add picnic tables in the woodland. And we have a view of this scheme from the street as well. You can see the difference that the path that leads into the heart of the park opens up on from both corners of the site. You still have a clear view to the shelter. You still can view the basketball. You have a clear view of the playground, and the woodland picnic tables are not depicted in this, but they are a part of the scheme also. And so we would like to get your feedback. I know it's a lot to process, but we like to know if you have a strong feeling that you prefer concept A or concept B, or if there are parts of both that you think we could make a hybrid. So you'll see the poll pop up on your screen, and please respond. And we can see the live polling. I can't vote because I'm a host, unfortunately. Does anybody else want to chime in?
We did get a vote for option A in the chat, Jen.
Oh, we did. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
I went ahead and shared the results. If there's anyone that wants to kind of talk about why they like parts of both, or you can do that in the chat, or now might be a good time to chat about that as well.
Yeah, there were a few more comments in the chat about in support of option A, and there was some additional context provided that they liked shifting the basketball court and kind of trading positions between it and the play area, but including the walking loop in the back there. And that anything that we can do to separate the play area from 30th Street there would be what they would vote for. All right, so I'm going to move to the next slide. This is just the first of a few chances that we'll have to get some feedback from everybody. So the next thing we wanted to get a sense of is to try to get a ranking of the different amenities that we're looking to include or enhance within the park. So of course we've got the existing shelter, and we're looking to improve or replace that shelter and add at least a grill within that area, and then grills within the other picnic areas deeper in the park on the 31st Street side of everything. If we do a walking loop, anytime when we've had requests for walking loops, we've also had requests for seating kind of around that. One, so people can just relax and watch other people's kind of move through the park. And two, so if you are walking lots of loops, if you want to rest for a few minutes, you have an opportunity to do that. One of the other new elements that we're looking to add in here is some kind of a plaza space, whether it's in up at the entrance on the 30th Street side in option A, or more kind of centrally located or a core within the park, and include some furnishings and potentially game tables and things of that nature within that space to give folks an opportunity to sit there and socialize and congregate. So our next poll, we want to know which amenities you would most like to see improved within the park. And so we ask that you select your top 3. And we'll give everybody an opportunity to do that. Looks like the shelter is one of the more popular responses, closely followed by the walking loop. And then the plaza space, followed by the woodland picnic areas, play area, and basketball court. It seems to be holding right around there. All right, so we'll call it there. All right, so it looks like just based on the small group that we have here tonight, the shelter, the walking loop, and some type of plaza space, depending on which of the concepts we kind of go with, are the ones that seem to be the most popular. All right, so at this time, we wanted to open things up and allow folks to unmute or ask any questions within the chat. And I'll start. I'll add a couple of little points of context. One thing that we didn't talk about, but that we are in discussions with, we're working with CDOT to create a safe crosswalk across 30th Street between the park and the houses across the street there. This is something that we've talked with residents about over the phone in our previous meeting last fall, and some things that we've observed just being out on the site. And so we're in the process now of working with CDOT to make that crosswalk a reality as we go in and improve the sidewalk in front of the park. We want to make sure that we also provide a safe way for folks to get across. I did see in the chat somebody mentioned that that the amenities just need to be modernized, and Aileen, that's what we're hoping to do here. That's the aim, that when we say the basketball court in concept A stays in the same area, it would have all new fencing, all new paving, all new court, and probably some kind of a decorative court feature that would be associated with that. Same with the shelter, either a full refurbishment or a replacement of that. Typically, anytime that we need to relocate a playground, we need to get a new piece of equipment within there. Just the process of taking that out would do enough damage to the equipment where it would need to be replaced. It's not something that would be safe to reuse after that. So I think modernizing is absolutely what we're looking to do. If there's anything that you had in mind beyond that, please feel free to unmute and let us know, or add that in the chat.
Yeah, I had a little different vision than just a regular park. I had just recently rode by two areas in Charlotte. The first area I rode by was on Tuckasegee Road. Where they had a really colorful lounge area outdoors, and they had an overhead, which is pretty much a shelter. And that shelter had a lot of really delightful colors, and it drew you to it when you ride by it. Another area was right there at the 4 Point on Badersford Road. That's where they have the colorful swing area. They have some wooden lawn chairs. I was thinking a little more modernized than your regular park.
Mhm.
That's just a vision that I had.
Sure.
The basketball court is fine, you know, the playground is fine, but the area that, those two areas, Tuckasegee, I'm sorry, I'm not good at, I think it's State Street area.
Mhm.
They had on the left side, if you're going away from town, they have an area over there that's very inviting.
Mhm.
And then on at 5 Points on Batersford Road, they
Yeah.
just finished it. And
Right.
I thought that was just really nice, where they had the circular area and then the swing and a few lawn chairs. And in fact, a few people really stopped and just really relaxed because the ice cream area was right there.
So you're looking for color and pop within something that adds some appeal to it, right?
Yeah, instead of your regular looking park that is outdated. I mean, it's really outdated, that is.
Okay.
It's
Thank
just
you for
like-
that. Let's see if we've gotten anything. Nothing in the chat. Yeah, I was going to see if anybody else had any ideas or comments or suggestions.
I think that's a good one. This is Jeff Farr. I think that was a good one to modernize what she's saying, you know, just to update the things and to make it more inviting looking from the street. So,
Mhm.
I think that's important. And I put the comment in about moving the basketball court, but keeping the walking trail. So I did have a question about, have you taken into consideration like where the new entrances are going to be for the building that's going to be next to you, the new, because there's going to be an entrance, you know, close to, I think it's going to be a little bit closer to the park. With the new building that's going up now.
Yeah, James, I think you and Jen have been able to get the plans for that building. Is that right?
That's correct. And we coordinate with In Living about that entry, and they're all about trying to connect. So we're going to be looking at all ways to make that connection. But it is closer to the entry and by the bus stop area.
Yeah, I think what we were trying to do on, at least on the 30th Street side, was think about people coming, entering the park from either direction there. And right now, there's one single entrance, and it's tucked away on kind of the right side of the park as you're standing on 30th Street looking toward the park.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to create a way to be able to get in. And I think option B probably does a better job of that, where either way you're coming down the street. But we hadn't, I don't know that we've considered kind of a side entry within the park that would come directly from the new development next door. Mostly because of two reasons. One, because of the tree canopy that we were trying to preserve for the most part in that area. And two, we've got some challenges from a topo standpoint. And so we wanted to try to keep our slopes as accessible as possible. But we can definitely go back and look at that, their proposed finished grade and the existing grade within the park, and see if we have an opportunity to provide a more direct connection within the park there.
Yeah, it probably would be a good idea to have something coming maybe from the parking lot, as opposed to people walking down to the sidewalk on 30th and then walking down to the park. I would like to see entrances on either end, because if I'm not mistaken, this building is also going to open up a street in the back that is now not connected. So you may have some more traffic coming from that direction as well.
Yep, that's correct. And then beyond, once that project is complete, there was another project that was announced, I think late last year or early this year, that will develop some additional properties on the opposite side of 31st Street from the park. That that's one of the reasons that we are trying to focus on the 30th Street side of the park, is so that we have some flexibility long-term to potentially satisfy some additional needs on the backside of the park where we've got the walking loop shown right now. We won't know what those residents want or need until they are there. And so we want to be able to build some kind of long-term flexibility into how we address the needs within the park as well.
Yeah, one of the other things too, Bert and Jeff and Eileen, is color is definitely going to use every opportunity that we can to provide color because of the urban context. And even the playground surface can be a color play surface rather than being the brown fiber. So that would be one thing that would change to make it more vibrant.
That sounds good.
And at the same time, we have to take into consideration the older generation who is established here in this area. You know, I'm not sure if they would agree with too much color, but I think it would be inviting to them to have some color, and the flowers would probably settle well with a lot of residents. I know it. I love flowers, and a lot of people I know love flowers. But one particular thing I wanted to also talk about, I've been here in this area for a while, many, many years, like 30 something years. What I wanted to say is when the weather gets really warm and a lot of the high school students, we need to take into consideration those, that population, the children and the students who, from what I remember, they have horns that they play, they practicing for their band. They're doing a lot of outdoor activity, but it's around their house. And if we can just move that into maybe an, a inviting park area, or where they would want to come into the park, because I know I have congos and I go on my porch and play them, and I've never had a problem with the residents, but things like that I would like to see, because North Camp, they come and play their guitars and their Congo bongos, and they just have a really good time, and we just really need to draw the young, the elderly, and X generation, pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Would you see the kind of proposed plaza spaces as a potential place to gather and do that?
I do, and that's why my vision was going past Tuckasegee Road, because I go that way to my job, Allenbrook Elementary. So like I said, there's an overhead, and then it's very inviting, but they also have chairs and benches there. I don't know if you ever get a chance to ride down that area, but more not so ordinary shelter-like, but more open space where they can really come and, gather if they have band practice, or, they just want to just release some music. It doesn't have to be, just radios and stuff like that. It could be music. A lot of kids around here play instruments. You will hear it. It's summer.
Oh, that's good. That's good input. We definitely we're trying to do that with the plaza. Because of the urban context, it makes sense to do that.
So it looks like Katie has been monitoring the chat and then writing down some of the different ideas that's been shared through folks who have been unmuting there. And it looks like putting some check marks if we hear multiple comments, adding the color and modern elements, and then landscape improvements is something that I think we heard last week and was underscored from Aileen just a minute ago. Any other questions or comments that anybody might have? Okay, well, I'm going to move on to those closing slides, but if anybody has anything else that they'd like to share, we'll be around until 7 or so. So Katie, if you want to, yep, thank you. Oh, we got a hand raised.
I heard you mention that you had, you all had spoken to some of the residents over the phone. Would that be some of the residents who have moved in the area? Like, I'm not sure what street it's on, but it's on the side of where Wayne's is when you go down that strip. Is that that
James,
new development? Is that,
N-
might you have
no.
spoken with the residents that live in that area?
No, it was,
In the new-
no, it was with some of the people that were, you know, moving out of Delahaye, and the thought of what they liked about it, and having the possibility to come back, you know, in the area with the new development. That was primarily the residents that we've talked. More outreach could be
Well,
done.
when you go, oh, you said Delahaye on that side.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Hi, Ms. Wilson, are you talking about the development that's off of Catalina?
Yes,
24th?
yes, I'm thinking all of all
That's-
those residents that have moved in. I'm thinking
Okay.
about what they would like. They would like, you know, volleyball, a net, and they would like, they're gonna like that walkway, if it's a trail. I'm thinking about them,
Mhm.
Generation X, what they would like.
okay.
They're probably
perhaps they
like
need to be known.
millennial Gen Z now.
Mhm. I would like to see somebody send some flyers out so that we could have more than about, 10 or 15 people who attend the meeting. There's a lot of people in the community.
Yeah, we did.
And,
We sent them out.
oh, really?
Mhm. We sent out over 400.
I've never gotten one.
What is your address?
2825 Grimes.
2825 Grimes. All right.
Yeah, we mailed out postcards to a number of folks starting back in the fall. We typically do that within, what, a half mile or so of the park, James?
Yes. So
Um,
half mile
Yeah,
radius of the park.
I'm in the Graham Heights community.
okay.
Feel like you should have got that. You should have got one. How did you find out about the meeting?
I usually find out about it from, help me out, Jean Hart. We usually find out from, what's her name?
You mean for Miss Queen?
No, I can't think of her name. Her husband passed away. I can't think of her last name. Some time ago, he was.
He was like the civic leader of this area.
Is it Melissa Gaston?
Yes,
Oh,
We
Yes,
usually
she
find out from Miss Gaston.
Melissa,
Melissa. And this time I only found out because of a postcard that came in the mail, and I also live. Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just, because of the postcard that came in the mail this time, is how I found about this virtual community meeting. And I also live in the Graham Heights area too.
And she contacted me.
Yes, that's how we
I
use
think
it.
the postcard came from Parks and Rec, didn't it?
Yes, I think this, Tryon Hills virtual community meeting.
Yeah, that's it. I don't understand why Pat, and she
Pat
lives
didn't
next
get
to you.
one.
You didn't get one.
I didn't.
Live next to you.
I received one and I'm on 28th Street.
Okay. Well, we have your address now, Pat. We'll make sure that
All right.
you receive my next notification.
And
I'm
I'm
just
at,
thinking I'm just thinking about the new residents, that live on that strip. You know what I mean? In that development, when you pass Wayne's, you go down there and on the left.
If you're
Yeah, we
coming
can-
from Graham Street and you're going towards North Tryon, there's a
Yes.
development. When you get to Catalina, there's a
Yeah.
new development on the left-hand side. They're still building those. They're not even completed yet.
Yeah, Pine 22. They're
Yes.
also building some right here off of Grand Street. I hope they not being mean or anything, get rid of that game room. But right across from the game room, Miss Pat, where the tire place used to be.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's,
those are gonna be some townhomes there.
they took
and,
that whole side going straight down.
Mhm. It was about 3 or 4 acres and they're gonna build that. I don't know that it's named yet. And it doesn't have anything to do with that arcade, unfortunately. I mean, if something to tear down, that would have been it, but unfortunately, no.
Well, I'll say that we have recorded the meeting tonight and we'll post it on our publicinput.com/Tryon Hills page. We've got the QR code here and the link to the website. And that's the same website that you guys went to sign up. So if you talk with others nearby that didn't receive a postcard and didn't know about the meeting, you can point them in this direction, or you can have them give myself, James, or Katie a call or an email, and we'd be happy to talk with them about what they'd like to see and what we can do within the park to make sure that we're meeting their needs as well.
Okay.
So this was all the program that we had for this evening, but if anybody wants to stick around and share some additional ideas or ask any additional questions, we'll be here for another 15 minutes or so. But we do appreciate your time and appreciate your comments and your passion for your community. Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you.
Stay engaged. Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
Bye.
thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Let's see.